It's gonna be a 1-star review from me, dog. Hello friends, I am back with another comic book review. So this comic I read first about 10 years ago, and I just this past week gave it a little reread. And I have different feelings about it now than I did back then. First, before I begin, I want you to tell me in the comments what you think the absolute worst superpower would be. I'm thinking constant diaper breath. Your mutant ability is having like noxious, fuming diaper breath at all times, and no amount of oral hygiene will fix it. But like, it doesn't incapacitate anybody, you just have really bad breath. Or like the ability to control water, but only water that you've drank and only while it is inside your body. You can be super hydrated, but nothing else. Let me know what the dumbest superpowers you can think of would be. Let's get on with the comic. The comic is the worst X-Men ever. So I read this trade paperback like 10 years ago. I have very different feelings about it now than I did the first time. When I first read this, I read it while I was drinking in the strip club in the middle of the day. And I just reread it in the last week, and I feel differently about it. So let's just get into it. I'm not going to spoil too much of the story for the sake of the review. I will give a couple of small spoilers away, but there's still a lot I'm leaving out, so you can still read it. X-Men. Worst X-Men ever. This was written by Max Bemis. The artist is Michael Walsh. Colorist is Ruth Redmond. Letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Jordan White is the editor, with assistant editor Heather Antos. And it is published by Marvel. The release date was August 24th, 2016. Worst X-Men ever follows Bailey Hoskins, a painfully average high school kid who learns during a family meeting that both of his parents are mutants, meaning that he might be one too. His parents take him to Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and he meets Hank McCoy, and they do some genetic testing and find out that he does in fact carry the X gene, and his mutant ability is exploding. But that's it. He explodes and then he dies, which is kind of ridiculous in an X-Men universe where, like, for example, Jean Grey has died over a dozen times and she's always resurrected, but for some reason, that's not an option for Bailey. After a tragic incident kills both of his parents, Bailey has nowhere else to go and starts living at the school full-time. Jubilee introduces herself and gives him the tour, and she introduces him to a handful of other students, most notably a brother and sister duo, Rags and Riches. Riches can turn anything he touches into solid gold. Must be nice, especially in this economy. Rags, on the other hand, can make matter deteriorate at an exponential rate. Rags is a lot more likable. She's very friendly, very chill, she's punk rock, and she's kind of positioned as Bailey's love interest. They don't really explore that dynamic too much, but it's hinted at. Later, during a mutant youth outreach event, Bailey meets a girl named Miranda. So Miranda has the power of reality manipulation. She can alter existence and reality as we know it any way she feels like, whenever she feels like. It's crazy overpowered. For some reason that Hank McCoy very poorly explains, she can't use her powers in combat because of a continuity paradox. It kind of gets a little bit meta. They basically kind of allude to the fact that there would be no more comics to write about if all of the villains were just erased from existence. So Miranda can't do that, because then we wouldn't have any comics to read, because there would be no bad guys. And what are we gonna do? Read comics about the X-Men just hanging around the coffee table, reading the newspaper in which there's no events because there's no bad guys? Come on, that's boring. We have two characters whose powers technically make them pretty incredibly powerful, but narratively useless. Most of the time they just sit on the sidelines and watch the others fight. Most of the story revolves around Bailey's sulking. And he's like spiraling through an identity crisis fueled by low self-esteem and the fact that his mutant ability is essentially unusable. We have a few cameos from the more recognizable X-Men characters, Gambit, Wolverine, and Magneto, and the Brotherhood show up briefly. But yeah, honestly, 4 out of the 5 issues is just kind of about Bailey failing at everything and sulking about it. Eventually, Bailey and Riches get into an argument that escalates into a fight, and they're sent to Professor Xavier's office. We briefly get a decent heart-to-heart between Bailey and Professor Xavier, but that is pretty much immediately derailed because Riches reveals himself to be quite the dingleberry. And then we get to the final issue. Suddenly there's a massive time jump and Bailey is older. He is visibly exhausted, and he's not doing well. Riches has taken over the world and become Lord Rich. Anyone who opposed him has either died or disappeared, and everybody else seems just kind of apathetic about the whole situation. They don't really do anything about it and just accept his tyranny. That is not really explained too much. Bailey gets invited to a party at Lord Rich's estate, which is the Empire State Tower, or the Empire State Building. He reunites with Miranda, who has been gone this whole time. She just disappeared and doesn't explain really why. And he asked her why she never stopped any of this from happening. This is where Miranda kind of reveals that she has stopped it and that she's actually been constructing and reconstructing the Marvel Universe time and time again. She's constantly reset reality and kept heroes alive, especially the X-Men. Bailey, understandably bitter at this point, demands to know why she could fix the entire universe but never bothered fixing his life, which is such a stupid little selfish boy thing to say. Like, oh my god, kid. It is not a woman's job to fix your pathetic life for you. Get over it. Grow up. Bailey storms off to confront Riches, and during that confrontation, he explodes. Miranda more or less implies that she'd been waiting for Bailey to make that choice the entire time, and the comic ends with a meta joke type of thing, like a letter of the writer Max Bemis pitching the series to the editor Jordan White and being rejected. And that's it. When I first read this comic, I thought it was deeply profound. I loved it so much. I told all my friends about it. I read it that one time drunk in a strip club and never read it again, which is my bad. I should have read it with sober, clear eyes. And I did, finally, but not until 10 years later. And now I think it's not that great. I keep flipping back through the pages trying to figure out, like, did I miss something? Am I misinterpreting it now? What is it that I saw in this 10 years ago that I can't see in this now? So as far as the story goes, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Riches isn't very compelling as a villain. Sure, his power is turning things into gold, but like, that's it. And somehow in the comics, Magneto ends up as a homeless guy wandering the streets of New York. So like, why? How did that happen? He's Magneto. He's one of the most powerful villains that the X-Men have ever had to deal with. How did he just end up like a washed up loser? They don't explain that, and it doesn't make any sense. And the pacing is just not great either. We spend 4 out of the 5 issues just watching Bailey fail at everything he tries and wallow in self-pity, and then suddenly we jump to the future with a real quick conclusion. It kind of feels like towards the end, Bemis just needed to wrap it up and move on to the next project or something. I really feel like it had potential that just never got fulfilled. I think Miranda is probably the most interesting character in the whole comic, but she also isn't explained. We don't know anything about her background. We don't know the extent of her powers. And right when she becomes genuinely compelling, she refuses to elaborate and says, it's a long, embarrassing story. And then that's it. Also, what was even the point of the Brotherhood in this comic? The Brotherhood's in here. Magneto's in here. They contact Bailey a couple of times, but they don't really serve a purpose. It was like a weird subplot that just goes nowhere. I don't know. It feels like this comic had a lot of themes that it wanted to hint at, but never really committed to them. The artwork is decent. Michael Walsh has a simplistic and straightforward approach in his style. Characters are still recognizable. The paneling is straightforward. It fits the tone of the story. You know, it gets the job done. I would say the artwork doesn't really steal the spotlight. I have read comics in which I have spent a lot of time just staring at the artwork on the pages, but not on this one. But it's not bad. It's still good. So I would give that a 3 out of 5. And even though I am pretty disappointed with this reread of the comic, clear, sober eyes, I would still recommend it. I do think there is something in it that I really loved the first time I read it. And regardless of the fact that I can't figure out what I liked about it the first time, it doesn't make it a bad comic. It's not terrible. If you want to read a really interesting offshoot X-Men story about the worst X-Men ever, it does have some funny bits in it. There are some good jokes. It is a little meta. The artwork is different than our usual X-Men Marvel comics. Also, I would recommend it because I am hoping somebody out there can try to explain to me what I'm missing. Maybe the only reason I really loved it so much was because I was under the influence and I was drinking in a bar. And with alcohol consumption, the first thing that goes out the window is judgment. So let me know what you think in the comments. Have you read it? Are you interested in reading it? And what should I read next? I have here Sex Castle by Kyle Starks. It is published by Image Comics. And I also have Bridge Planet 9 by Jared Throne. This is published by Top Shelf Productions. And I know I haven't posted a whole lot of reviews lately. It's been so hard trying to find the time to get around to doing this. I'm not a full-time content creator. I have a job. Actually, I have a job as a tattoo artist. And speaking of which, I will be tattooing at Rose City Comic-Con. Yes, indeed. You can get a tattoo from me at Rose City Comic-Con in Portland, Oregon, September 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2026. So, in a few months, I hope to see you there. Thanks for tagging along. I will see you in the next review.